Hello, everyone. Welcome to ELI, the only podcast in India where we bring a new founder on every episode to talk about their journey and their story of building a startup. And today we have with us Saurabh Marda, who is the co founder and managing director of Freyr Energy, which is one of the leading rooftop solar companies in India. Hi, Saurabh. Welcome to ELI.
Hi, Priya. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
To start with, Saurabh, would request you to introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about your background. Where did you grow up? Where did you study? And how did you, arrive at entrepreneurship? What was your journey like?
Sure. I'm from Hyderabad, born and brought up here. My undergraduate degree is in chemical engineering. I went to RV College in Bangalore.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Immediately after that, I went to Georgia Tech in the US to get my master's in environmental engineering.
Mm-hmm.
And then I worked for 3 years in the US in Atlanta for a very large environmental consulting firm.
Okay.
Then went to Yale, got my MBA. After that, worked for a strategy consulting firm again in the US for about a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2011, late 2011, I moved back to India.
Okay.
Um, from 2011 to 2014, I worked for a couple of large US based solar companies. So that was my first foray into the solar sector
Mm-hmm.
and my first experience of actually working in India also. And then 2014, along with Radhika, started Freyr Energy.
Okay. And what was the story behind starting this venture? Usually, what we see is whenever somebody starts out something, there is always a trigger. Uh, I've seen founders who have lost jobs, and that triggered entrepreneurship in them. And sometimes they see large opportunities in a particular market, or sometimes
Yeah.
there is a bug in you that I have to do something on my own. So different reasons, but usually there is a trigger. What triggered you to become an entrepreneur?
So I think couple of things. So one was I am a second generation entrepreneur. So
Wow.
just to give that clarification. Right. So I have seen my father build his own business out over decades.
Mhm.
Now, for me, the perspective always was to come back to India and do something on my own. And
Mhm.
the thought process there was, Priya, was look, I've studied and worked in some pretty good places and I've learned a lot of things. And I wanted to come back and, you know, try and do some good in India. That was the
Mhm.
objective. I'm perfectly prepared to fail. But the perspective was if after having all of this background, if you're not even going to try, what is the use
Mhm.
of all of this, right? All of these crazy schools that you studied in, amazing places that I worked at. So that was point
Right.
number one, right? So left a perfectly well-paying job and said, no, I'm going to move back to India because, I said, abhi nahi hoga to kabhi nahi hoga.
Mhm.
And the second thing was to me, having worked in the environmental space, right?
Mhm.
So my two areas of extreme amount of interest have always been solar and or waste management. Those are my two areas
Okay.
of interest, solar and waste management. And decided to go down the solar path for the simple reason that I believe that there was a private sector play possible there. In the waste management
Mhm.
space in India, there wasn't much that could have been done when
Mhm.
I was starting off or exploring my options in between 2011 and 2014. So got into solar because I was just very passionate about it. I felt that it is something that can add a lot of value. That
Mhm.
was it. There was no other calculation of, 10 years down the road, this is going to happen, 5 years down the road, that is going to happen, etc., etc. It was more like, no, I really like this space. I want to do something over here and it can add a lot of value. So that was what led me down this path.
Got it. Speaking of solar, I think solar has been a technology that has been there since quite some years now, but only recently it has kind of catch the fire. It has become a buzzword with the government initiative and everything. Why do you think that it has happened recently and why not earlier?
That's a very That's a very important question. Look, I think everything has its time,
Mm.
right? And timing is super critical. And unfortunately, it's one of those things that is actually a big determining factor of success or failure for any entrepreneur.
Right.
One is, what is your idea, right? Are you at the right place at the right time? Right.
Hmm.
Right time is not in your control, really. Sometimes you could have started off well ahead of time and you just didn't know. And you have to survive till
Right.
you hit that inflection point. But leaving that aside, I think in India, see the solar part, if you look at it globally also, Priya, if you look at solar globally also, right? Most of the work that has happened on a commercial scale has happened even globally in the last 15 years only.
Okay.
So if I keep that in context, right, it's not a very long time since
Hmm.
this significant transition even globally started happening. Okay.
Right.
So most of it has happened in the last 15 years. Now, for the first few years, from let's say 2010 till 2020, I would say America was the driver, Europe was the driver, Australia. These were the countries
Hmm.
that were driving the growth. Then China stepped in, then India stepped in, and now India and China are firmly the drivers, right?
Right.
So that is how that is panned out globally. Now, within India, I think it's not that people have only started looking at it now. If you look at corporates and large institutes, right, they had started
Hmm.
transitioning to solar a while back. So for them, it's been happening since, say, 2014, 15 onwards. That
Hmm.
journey for the corporates have been happening. Where solar has caught the imagination now is with the retail customer, right? Your residential client who's looking at a solar for home, or an MSME customer who wants to put up solar for over his shop or over his factory or a fabrication unit or whatever it may be, to put up a
Hmm.
solar system there to offset their bills. So this, which is like, by population, that is the largest segment, that has really sort of come into its own in the last couple of years. So it's
Hmm.
been a very sort of a logical transition. And I would want to say kudos to the government, honestly, for doing what they've done. If you take a step back, they've exceeded all of their solar goals so far.
Right.
And right, and that doesn't happen in a vacuum. And also built out a manufacturing ecosystem. And when you had the Ayodhya temple inauguration happen, and then you have the prime minister coming and talking about solar first, right after that, right?
Hmm.
There can't be a marketing campaign better than that,
Yes.
to make people excited and say, hey, you know what? The prime minister is talking about it and talking about it like this, then this is the way to go, right?
Hmm.
So I think those were the sequence of events. But even at the ground level, what we have seen happen, Priya, is a few years ago, I would have to convince a customer that solar is a technology that works.
Hmm.
Because the question was, मेरे लिए चलेगा क्या? Right? That was the question.
Hmm.
Now, in the last couple of years, we don't spend that much time trying to convince a customer that solar technology works, that they have read enough about, they know globally everyone is using it, so that the confidence is there. The question is more around, okay, is Freyr my right partner? Is this the right system size and price for me? Right?
Hmm.
Can I get a loan with this? Right? Those are really the sort of the questions that you're trying to answer for the client now, compared to where
Hmm.
we were earlier.
Got it. Speaking of clientele, what sort of clientele do you have? Do you go after the businesses, smaller consumers, or individuals?
So we are a direct to customer brand, A.
Hmm.
B, my majority of my customers are people who live in independent homes and
Hmm.
have bills that are upwards of 1,500 rupees a month, electricity bills upwards of 1,500 rupees a month. The typical customer profile there is someone 40 years and above in age.
Hmm.
And these are guys who want to put up a solar system on their home to offset their electricity bills. That is my majority customer base. My second highest customer segment is MSME customers, as I briefly highlighted earlier. Um, again, they come from all walks of life. So you have hotels, schools, hospitals, clinics, convention centers, pharmaceutical sort of stores and other things, going all the way to manufacturers of mattresses, specialty chemicals, food processing units, people who
Hmm.
make rice mills, dal mills, these kinds of guys, cold storage units, etc. So the spectrum is basically pretty wide, as you can see, and it's
Hmm.
anyone basically consuming power on the
Okay.
MSME side. There, yeah, there we typically, again, MSMEs is where we focus on more in that segment. From a revenue split, 60 to 70% of my revenue comes from homes,
Okay.
30 to 40% of my revenue comes from small businesses.
Got it. When an individual customer is buying solar panels or the whole setup that comes with it, be it from Freyr or any other energy company, they
Yeah,
would be asking one simple question: the payback period or ROI or whatever it is, like how much return I will get from this investment. So,
yeah,
can you tell us what sort of answer that you give to them?
yeah. It's very simple. So for residential customers, the payback period is 4 years.
Hmm.
For MSME customers, the payback period is between 2.5 to 3 years. For
Okay.
MSME customers, the payback period is faster, primarily because their cost of electricity is higher from the grid.
Hmm.
And it's also a larger system, so the per unit cost comes down a little bit because of economies of scale.
Got
Right.
it.
For residential customers, 4 years. Basically, again, that itself is a 25% ROI. It's very attractive.
Mm-hmm.
And in both of these cases, the system is designed to run for 25 years or more.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in 4 years, you can simply pay back whatever investment you had done, and rest of the years you are just getting free energy from your rooftop.
Correct.
All right. The next aspect that comes to my mind is around the recent challenges that we have been seeing with a particular country, which is China. Their restrictions on rare earth metals, because I understand a big part of the solar panel and the components that are used is built from those rare earth metals. And in India also, a lot of manufacturers are dependent on the Chinese suppliers, and that has been a problem recently. How do you foresee the whole global ecosystem in future, and will there be any challenges in the growth?
So we'll go one by one.
Sure.
So in terms of every component that is required to build a solar system, at Freyr, our supply chain has been 100% Indian for the last 2 years.
Wow.
Okay, so we have procured from Indian companies only, right? And our reason for procuring from Indian companies was twofold. One is the turnaround time is much faster.
Mhm.
And second is I buy in rupees and I sell in rupees. I do not have a forex risk. And third, honestly, I have 3 points actually. The third point is from a serviceability standpoint, if there's a component replacement that's needed at the customer site or something else, again, if it's an Indian manufacturer, it's just going to be
Mhm. Mhm.
faster to do this, right? Because my warranties are back to back with my client. My
Okay.
manufacturer gives me the warranties, and I in turn give the same warranties to my customer.
Mhm.
So we took that call 2 years ago. Now,
Okay.
uh, the way the overall Indian ecosystem has evolved is there are manufacturers in India manufacturing every component, like I said, and it is happening at a world-class level. So
Mhm.
you have a set of companies who are also actively exporting to the US, to Europe, to other markets, right?
Mhm.
So they meet all of the global standards. The same
Right.
standards are available in India also, should you decide to
Mhm.
work with those companies, right?
Okay.
So that ecosystem is built in India. More and more backwards integration is happening in, certain components. So I think the idea of the Indian government is really to build in that independence on the manufacturing side also, right? Which you're moving towards. I'd say probably
Hmm.
70% there. Uh, on the rare earths part of it, I think in the solar sector's case, specifically where the rare earths can have an impact is on the energy storage part of it,
Hmm.
right? Not the other parts, not the solar module manufacturing, not the inverter manufacturing, cables and all of that is fine. It is if you're deciding to put up energy storage. Now, where we are in
Right.
our journey right now with our customers, we put up solar systems without energy storage.
Hmm.
Okay. But energy storage is becoming very, very widely used now in all of the new larger projects that are coming up. You hear about these
Right.
500 megawatt tenders, 200 megawatt tenders, and other things. Those are built in with energy storage.
Hmm.
So that is where these rare earths will start making a difference, right?
Hmm.
So there also, you now have a lot of startups in India that have come up to make batteries.
Okay.
Uh, I also understand that the Indian government is actively soliciting large companies to start mining lithium and other things within the country.
Okay.
So over the next few years, I think we'll start seeing, that change also come about. And even on the energy storage side, there are a lot of chemistries that don't use rare earths.
Hmm.
So sodium-based batteries, vanadium-based batteries, there are all of these other chemistries that people are coming out with. So you don't have this extraordinary dependence on lithium or cobalt or, those kinds of minerals or
Got it.
metals, right? So there's a few moving parts here. But yes, overall, as of today, if China decides to stop giving rare earths out to anybody, then we are
Hmm.
going to have a problem.
Got it.
Yeah.
Uh, Curious to understand one thing. I think you were 100% reliant on Indian ecosystem and sourcing locally. Uh, I would be curious to understand what sets Freyr Energy apart from other players in the rooftop solar, because they are also sourcing locally, best in class equipments and whatever materials are required. What sets you apart from other companies?
So I'd say sort of maybe a 5 bullet point answer to
Sure.
this, right? So, and I'm taking the customer perspective, as in why does a customer choose me, Freyr
Hmm.
versus someone else, right? I'll
Yes,
come at it from a customer perspective because it's easier to think that way, right? It
absolutely.
clarifies a lot of things. So the reasons why a customer chooses us more often than our competitors is first, they believe that our quality is better.
Hmm.
Now, quality does not just mean how you're procuring the components. Quality also means how you're deploying all these components together at the site. So there is a construction component at the customer site also. All of this has
Mhm.
to come together. That quality matters a lot. If that is not done properly, so imagine you bought the best cable, you bought the best panel, but if you didn't hook up those two things correctly,
Mhm.
then you're not going to get that outcome right. Or if you put up the panels in an area where there is shadow, it is going to generate less electricity. So that quality of work matters a lot, which is one of the areas where we excel. The other area where our customers choose us is that our turnaround time is much faster than most of our
Right.
competition. So we're about, say, 50% faster. Now, we're able to do this due to a combination of innovation on the software side in the backend, as well as having warehouses across the country where
Hmm.
materials are available and we're able to ship them out sooner. The third thing is the customer journey in our case is frictionless. So
Mhm.
for a customer, they download the Freyr Energy app,
Okay.
and everything from inquiring about solar to ordering a system, applying for a loan, getting the
Mhm.
loan sanction, tracking the system installation process, post installation, how the system is performing in real time, and getting reminders of when to clean the system because there's dust on the panels. So you sometimes have to clean it once
Right.
every 10 days, once every 15 days, even getting those reminders. Everything is on the Freyr Energy app,
Mhm.
right? So, you can order the system and the rest of it is sort of happening, right? And you can check it and you don't have to keep calling 10 people and there's not these other things, right? So that becomes a very important winning point for us. The
Mm-hmm.
fourth area where we differentiate ourselves is financing. So we have lending partners that we partnered with. So, 50%. So today, about 65% of my customers take loans to
Okay.
buy a solar system. In half of those cases, we are getting the loan sanctioned in less than 5 minutes.
Wow.
Sanctioned, right? Another big chunk is sanctioned by within the first 24 hours itself, and then everybody else within the next 72 hours, right? So that's how
Okay.
it's broken up, right? So that ability to provide financing, lenders will not tie up with companies unless they're confident that these companies can also deliver and execute the projects for
Hmm.
the clients. So that becomes
Right.
again a confidence booster. So the whole financing piece is another area where we excel. Customers choose us. The final point where customers choose us are just sort of innovative things that we do. So I'll give you a couple of points.
Sure.
Um, First is while we've mostly been a digital first company with a very strong operational game on the ground, we've now started opening solar experience centers. So we have six solar
Right.
experience centers open across the country. All of these are in tier 2 to tier 4 cities, not tier 1 cities.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of the solar experience center was we wanted customers to have the ability to walk in and touch and feel a component or the entire solar system and see what this is about. When Freyr is saying our
Mm.
quality is better, what are they talking about, right? I can now touch and feel it. I don't have to read it on a piece of paper. I can actually go there and see firsthand what this is, right? So, so people who are on the fence, maybe you don't quite know or you're not able to figure out should I go with Freyr or should I go with one of the 10 other companies that are there? This becomes a very clear differentiator for the client, right?
Mm.
And that they have this place, and then it also builds trust that they're in my city physically, right? There's a big physical presence. Now, related to that, one of the other innovations that we've also brought, again, this is in India first, is we are helping customers understand consumption. So I am now showing you not only where your electricity is coming from, I'm also showing you how you're consuming power, how much power is being consumed. Is it more than yesterday, more than the last
Mm.
week average? Is it less? So what we are doing for clients now is we're giving them the tools to also reduce their consumption. So that means your
Okay.
savings will be that much more. You get my point, right? So as an MSME client, for example, customer, I do not know. I only get a bill at the end of the month. No, even as a homeowner,
Mm.
I am now telling you real time what is happening when your consumption is higher than normal. So then the customers are able to take very quick actions to solve
Mm-hmm.
for that problem, right? That is another thing that we're doing. So these kinds of innovations are something else again that attracts customers to us. But that is my long answer. Those are my 5 points where customers choose us more often than other companies.
Got it. And speaking of innovation, do you also innovate on the product or do any research on building new products, or do you go outside and buy the products and innovate on the serviceability of the company?
So innovation is very important for us, right? And we constantly look at ways in which we can add value to the customer. Again, we work backwards from the customer point of view. That
Mhm.
what are the problems, and our entire focus is energy. What
Right.
energy related problems for the client are there today? What can I solve today? What need to be solved down the road? And my innovation has to work on both of these things, right?
Mhm.
So so this is a continuous part of what we do. We have a in-house product development team that continues working on this. The innovation is both on the software side as well as the hardware side.
Okay.
Also, Schneider Electric which is one of the world's largest energy management companies.
Yes.
Uh, they are one of our investors,
Mhm.
and we collaborate with them frequently to jointly come up with solutions for the customer and
Mhm.
then deploy them on the ground.
Okay.
So that is one of the big advantages that we have. Beyond doing things ourselves, we also have this really big company with a global experience and background and a very strong presence in India. And we are able to work with them and then come out with solutions, right?
Mm,
So that is something else that we do. And yeah, so that I think that's my answer on the innovation side. We continue to do that um, for our clients. Yeah.
got it. Uh, Thinking from a customer's or consumer's point of view, I think a lot of customers have a lot of common misconceptions about rooftop solar in India. And for example, when I was personally researching about solar, I thought all the solars were off grid, like you store the solar energy in a battery and then use it. But contrary to that, most of the customers are using on grid solar setup.
Yeah.
So you must be talking to a lot of customers. What did you say are some of the common misconceptions that people have about solar?
So I think the common misperceptions people have is, you know, that it will work even when electricity is not there from the grid. An on-grid
Mm,
system does not do that, right? To your point, uh,
right.
that is only possible if it is a battery-based system. So that happens less and less, but it still happens at times. Uh, that is one thing that we have seen common misperception. The the other common sort of gap that we come across is customers are sometimes find it hard to differentiate between offer A from a company and offer B and offer C and offer D. And when that happens, they tend to very get very fixated on the price, right? So,
Mhm,
so basically, inevitably that leads to the wrong decision more often than not, right? So I think that the thing that I would love for customers to look at is value. So this is not just about how much you're paying upfront. It's also about how the system is going to perform down the road, and if it's going to generate more electricity. So I'll give you a simple example. So let's say you have company A that is offering a system for 100 rupees, and
mhm,
annually it'll give you 20 rupees in savings. Okay, fair enough. 20% ROI. You have company B that is going to cost 110 rupees.
mhm.
But the savings there will be 135 rupees,
Okay.
right? Or say 145 rupees, right? The ROI is stronger, no? The ROI is higher in the second case. Now, that part of it sometimes gets lost in how people evaluate solar, right? So to simplify
Mhm,
this, I think customers, okay, they don't look at value first, they look at price first at times, which creates challenges.
mhm.
And the second one is they assume that the solar system will work even when there's no grid power, which,
Right.
especially if you're putting up grid connected systems, on grid systems without energy storage, then that's not possible. But beyond that, I don't think there are any other. I think the third area where we've seen some confusion at times is they don't clean the system. So there's a lot of
Mm,
dust that settles on the solar panels, right?
right.
So this was also the driver for us to come up with those innovations where you have 100 different things to do. We want you to go on with your life. We will only remind you at the right time to clean your panels. You get my point,
Mm,
right? Most of the companies, they just set up the system and they walk away.
right.
And then you as a customer, it's up to you to remember when to clean, if you have cleaned, what else is happening. We let
Mhm.
technology handle that problem for us with our customers.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So here is my final question before we close. Uh, Comment on the future of the whole energy ecosystem and the clean energy narrative that is running in Indian context. What is going to happen in future? Will India, let's say in next 5 to 10 years, will India become totally clean energy dependent, or are you seeing any new trends coming up? Like solar is not the only clean energy. I think hydrogen is there, nuclear energy is there, and so on. what are the trends that you have been observing, and what do you foresee as a future of India?
So I'll go one by one.
Sure.
Overall, I believe that we are at a point where a fundamental shift in the way electricity is generated and electricity is consumed is happening.
Hmm.
We are at a fundamental shift over there. It is a once in 100 year kind of a shift that comes about. So we are at that point. Now, point number two, whatever India's electricity consumption is today, it will double by 2032.
Mm-hmm.
And that same rate will keep on happening. So basically, we are consuming our electricity consumption is increasing at around 10% per annum.
Okay.
Okay. Uh, More and more electric vehicles coming in, more and more gadgets at people's houses, more and more air conditioners, more and more geysers, more and more refrigerators, and people's quality of life is also improving as the country
Hmm.
grows, prospers. So the electricity consumption is only going to continue going up. Uh, so while solar is getting added at a fairly rapid pace, um,
Hmm.
if I look at it in this context, I would say that solar alone will not be sufficient to solve the
Okay.
problem for India just being clean energy reliant, right?
Hmm.
It will require solar. You will require wind. The other fundamental things that will start coming up, I believe, hydro is anyway there. I think nuclear power is something else that I expect will make a comeback and
Mm-hmm.
uh, and deservedly so. And I believe the other thing that will also happen is more and more energy storage will start becoming a part of that equation
All right.
so that you can store power and inject it when it is needed,
Hmm.
fundamental, right? So these are the things that will start happening. The grid infrastructure will also need to be upgraded. The current grid infrastructure cannot on its own handle all of these things. So that's also a continuous process. But overall, this is how I see it happening. Now, your other question was by when do I personally I expect by when can India be say rid of coal, for example.
Hmm.
Uh, I think somewhere in the next 30 years,
Okay.
so well within our lifetimes, is where I see a complete transition happening. Now, there could be certain things that can happen that will make this happen even faster.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If when we started on our solar journeys, if someone told us India will have 100 gigawatts of solar by this time, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the largest plant in India was 5 megawatts, right?
Right.
What are we talking? So I think things have been happening at a pretty fast pace. So in the next 20 to 30 years, I think fundamentally India would have moved to a clean energy economy.
Got it. And for other entrepreneurs who are listening to us right now,
Yeah.
would you say there are good opportunities to create value in the whole energy ecosystem?
Oh, absolutely. Right. There are problem statements that need to be solved for across the chain.
Mm-hmm.
Again, starting from the customer standpoint itself, right? One is how can I help them reduce their consumption?
Right.
Are there ways to do that? Can I help customers do peer-to-peer trading of power?
Mm.
That is another one. So I put up a system on my roof. You're my neighbor. Can I sell electricity to you?
Right.
Because you don't have a roof where you can put up solar for whatever
Yes.
reason, right? Can that happen? That fundamentally can alter the game, right? Uh, Energy storage chemistry, right? And then there are various other things on the manufacturing side, and then downstream with nuclear and other things. I think so. The opportunities are immense. Managing supply and demand of electricity and how people are consuming electricity, when they're consuming power and how. So I think opportunities are immense. Every one of these areas on its own is a very, very significant opportunity, right? So, the solar space alone, I think the two segments in which we operate, the residential and the MSME space, in that alone, over the next decade, we anticipate $100 billion worth of capex going in,
Wow.
right?
That's
So you can
massive.
imagine, right? That is significant. That's a transformational shift, right? And this is just within a small percentage of the total number of homes or a small percentage of total number of businesses who can actually take up. That itself is 100 billion. So I think the opportunities,
Mm.
there's no shortage of opportunities.
Got it. Well, on this note, we will close. Thanks for joining us and sharing all the insightful information to us. I think I personally gained a lot of intel about the whole solar industry and renewables. It was a pleasure to have you on our platform, and our best wishes for Freyr Energy.
Thanks a lot, Priya. Great talking to you. Take care.
Likewise.